Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior...
Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from Oniyusabata Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and also on 3FM 92.7. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight on Ghana Tonight, Ghana is mentioned that we're getting the information of the rollout of the new HIV prevention, and we'll give you details of that shortly. But the hot on the plate this evening is the Supreme Court justices. In fact, the latest on the table is another petition to remove a Supreme Court judge. What exactly is all this about? It's a conversation that we will have tonight. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. And also, the General Legal Counsel begins hearing complaints against the former Attorney General, Alfred Ocansey, for alleged professional misconduct in his handling of the famous ambulance purchase trial. We have the latest development on this matter for you. That's the man you see there, Alfred Ocansey. Stay with us on Ghana Tonight. Dramatic twists and turns characterizes the government's attempt to get reduced DSTV prices for Ghanaians. Now, we unpack the unfolding issues, including the latest apology from MultiChoice. Well, guess what? There was a FAQ, that's a frequently asked questions statement that was issued by MultiChoice earlier in the day. Then that was followed by an apology, and they've amended the FAQs now, taking out some key words in there that defines the entire conversation. It's a very interesting development and how things are playing out, but in the end, what you are asking for is how that impacts on you. Stay with us. You're an integral part of the conversation. The hashtag we are looking at now is Ghana Tonight on Facebook, on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
President John Mahama has revealed that a visa ban reversal by the United States government was in the best interest of Ghana and has no financial considerations to it. Given the firm assurance that Ghana will not be a dumping ground for deportees with criminal backgrounds, the president says Ghana's acceptance of the deportees will not compromise its sovereignty, security, and stability.
This outcome was negotiated in Ghana's best interest. And one of the key points in our negotiation with the U.S. authorities was our agreement to address the issue of overstayers who travel on student visas and others who travel as part of official government delegations. I mean, these are people who go and instead of coming back, they decide to stay. And so they have the record. So when they draw the threshold and you're above it, then they cancel your 5-year visas and bring you to B5, B3.
Former Attorney General Alfred Ocansey has urged the General Legal Counsel to dismiss a complaint filed against him by private citizen Daniel Ofosu-Appiah. The complaint, tied to Dami's role in the ambulance trial, was made public on the same day it was filed, something Dami says suggests political motives. He also questions Appiah's legal standing, noting he insists directly affected by the case and argues he acted in his official capacity, making the misconduct claims baseless. The minority members of Parliament's Committee on Communication and Information have accused the Minister of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovations, Samuel Nati George, of backtracking on his earlier stance over DSTV subscription price reductions. The group is demanding an explanation and apology. The group has also asked the minister to account for the amount collected by the government from the 10,000 Ghana cedis imposed on DSTV since its inception of the debacle. The chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee, Abena Osei-Asari, has expressed concern that not enough is being done to safeguard the public purse. Speaking at the close of the committee sitting today, she emphasized the need for stricter enforcement of sanctions to curb the financial infractions highlighted in the Auditor General's reports.
The agencies or the ministry or department that they go to audit, they don't give them the maximum attention and support that they need. Otherwise, why would you have a situation where the auditors come to the site, they ask for documentation in respect of a particular transaction, they are not able to provide, and then later they tell the auditors, we have them. Once they are cited in the Auditor General's report, they come with those documents. So I believe that the people who attend to the auditors when they come to the site.
The Teachers and Education Workers Union, TEWU, has suspended its nationwide strike. This decision follows a firm commitment from the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to address the union's concerns. TEWU leadership announced that all over 50,000 members across the country have been directed to return to work starting Thursday, October 2nd, 2025. At a news conference held in Accra, TEWU General Secretary King James Azoteba announced the union's decision to suspend the strike.
As a result of the positive development, TEWU has decided to suspend the indefinite strike action with effect from today, Wednesday, the 1st of October 2025, to allow for further discussions and implementation of the agreed terms. All TEWU members in the aforementioned institutions are expected to resume work.
An unidentified passenger brought the Tema Afienya train to an abrupt halt on its first day of passenger service after mistakenly pulling the emergency brake, delaying the trip for about 10 minutes. Engineers from the Ghana Railway Development Authority used the incident to caution passengers against tampering with the train's emergency systems.
As more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on YouTube. If you're new to the party, let's just remind you that TV3 is 28 years old, and this has been impactful 28 years. And the next 28 years and more will be much more of what we've been giving you in the past 28 years. So stay with us. But as always, Ghana Tonight is proudly brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Sasso and Sitsa Spray and Call, Tum Preco. Coming up next, there's been a lot happening in the past few days related to some specific individuals. The latest on the plate is that a petition is reportedly in the works to remove a Supreme Court justice. We have the name Yoni Kolendi. And what exactly is this? What is this all about? What's the backstory? How is this really playing out right now? And if this is to be considered, what process will that go through? What is the area of law that would apply if this matter is to be considered at all? But barely 24 hours after petitioning the Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police Service to investigate Justice Yoni Kolendi and Richard Jakpa over the alleged interference of administration of justice. Daniel Mafo Oforiata, a Chebi indigene, has escalated the matter to the presidency. Now, this time, he is asking President John Dramani Mahama to remove Justice Yoni Kolendi as a Supreme Court judge. My colleague, Dennis Poberi-Wadam Esquire, has been following this matter as it's been unfolding over the last few hours that we've been watching quite closely. And what exactly is this gentleman seeking, especially when it comes to the matter of the position of the law, and if this is going to be considered, what this process will be. Yesterday, that is good to have you. Yesterday, we got to hear of Daniel Mafo Foriata's name for the very first time because he petitioned the CID of the Ghana Police Service.
Precisely.
Now he's escalated the matter, and what is he asking for again?
Well, so that's what we are learning. That's beyond the petition that he put before the CID for some investigations to be conducted in respect of allegations he makes against His Lordship Justice Yoni Kolendi and Richard Japa in respect of that conversation which we specifically detailed last night, a fallout from that particular trial, the ambulance trial last year, in which Dr. Kessela Tuforsen was standing trial with 2 others. We are now understanding that he also put before the presidency another petition, this time around seeking the removal of His Lordship Justice Yoni Kolendi in respect of the same matter. We are only able to tell because what we gather is that from what was contained in the statement or the petition to the CID, it's basically on the same issues that have now been put in a petition again to the presidency. Mind you, this will come directly under Article 146, and as the law is, when it gets to that stage, matters are very confidential, supposed to be in camera, right from the petition to when the committee is done with its work, that if it ever progresses to that level. But the only reason we are able to understand what went into that petition is because we have already dealt with a certain leg of this matter, which is before the CID. And the understanding we get is that this petition, which we understand has been submitted to the presidency, is also predicates on the same or substantially on the same set of facts, Alfred. So that's what we are learning.
I see, but then again, if this is to be considered, and we're very mindful of the boundaries of our conversation on this as well, because as you indicated, it's early days yet. What's the process going to be?
Well, so that's also opened up another conversation which has been a very controversial one, and that has to do with the removal of the Chief Justice. Now there's an argument whether if the Chief Justice is removed as a whether the Chief Justice removed as a Chief Justice also loses the position of a Justice of the Supreme Court. Those who think that should not be the case argue that the removal process for a Chief Justice is different from the removal process of a Justice of the Supreme Court. In this case, if it ever progresses, we'll be looking at the removal process for a Justice of the Supreme Court. And that takes us, again, to Article 146. Except this time around, we are looking at it from the point where this would trigger a process that will have to do with the removal of a Justice of the Supreme Court and not necessarily a Chief Justice.
Chief Justice. So, then this particular provision in this article strictly applies, so that then you wouldn't have to import any other ruling in the case of Ejechum and others. This strictly applies.
Yes.
Because it's not a Chief Justice.
Exactly.
It's a Superior Court judge.
Yes.
Okay, let's get
So
into
that's
it.
why we needed to emphasize the point that the removal process for the 2 individuals is separate. So when you look at it, 1461 says that the Justice of the Superior Court, or in this case, let's just stick to what it is, because we know what it is.
Absolutely.
This is Justice of the Superior Court. We are not dealing with chairman of regional tribunals. Shall not be removed from office except for stated misbehavior and incompetence or on ground of inability to perform the functions of his office arising from infirmity of body and mind, that the Justice of the Superior Court of Adjudicator may only be removed in accordance with the prescribed, with the procedure specified in this article. Now, this is where it begins. This is the procedural aspect of it.
That's right.
That where the President receives a petition for the removal of a Justice of a Superior Court other than the Chief Justice, and for the removal of, he shall refer the petition to the Chief Justice.
Right.
When the President receives, he shall refer it to the Chief Justice, who shall determine whether there's a prima facie case.
So let's stay with that a bit. So in this particular the clause
Yes.
in this article, from what we saw in the case of the removed Chief Justice,
The Chief Justice, yes.
a 5-member committee was set up. But this time around,
But let's see, we still haven't got there yet.
let's go.
Yes, because remember, a prima facie was determined before the committee was
Precisely.
set up. So we are still at a point where it says that when the president, upon receipt of that petition,
So, which has been done now.
that's what we are learning.
Right.
But of course, receipts will also be acknowledged from the presidency.
Absolutely.
So we are hoping that if indeed it's been submitted as it's been reported, then the presidency would issue a statement to that effect, if they are minded to communicate the status of how things are
It's important
shaping
to
out.
say they are not obliged to let us know.
If it progresses, they would have to.
Yes, but at this
But we have
point-
seen that in the case of the removed Chief Justice,
Absolutely.
where we were informed that some petitions had been received and what the process was, and that was the beginning of the legal hurdles for that. But as we speak now, what we gather is that it has been. Except we have not heard from the presidency exactly what the status of it is.
Right.
But of course, for purposes of education, if it ever progresses, this is the procedure we are looking at.
Absolutely.
From the
It's important.
president to the Chief Justice, now we have an acting Chief Justice.
Yes.
So, and then there will also be a determination of a prima facie. This time around, this prima facie is determined by the Chief Justice. Mind you, in the other procedure that I've seen in respect of the Chief Justice, it was done together with the Council of State, the President of the Council of State. In this case, it's the Chief Justice who does that. Now, after that where the Chief Justice decides that it's a prima facie case, he shall set up a committee consisting. You see that this provision is very clear as to who does what. That he, the Chief Justice, shall set up a committee consisting of 3 justices of the Superior Courts. There again, you see the distinction. In the case of the Chief Justice, the Chief Justice,
Yes.
there were 2 Superior Court justices. In this case, there are 3 of the Superior Court justices. They are appointed by the council, the Judicial Council, and 2 other persons who are not members of the Council of State, nor members of Parliament, nor lawyers, and who shall be appointed by the Chief Justice on the advice of the Council of State.
Right.
So clearly, there's another distinction here. In the case of the Chief Justice, you have 2 justices of the Superior Court. In fact, in that particular one, is 2 justices of the Supreme Court. This talks about 3 justices of the Superior Courts. So it could include justices from the High Court, Court of Appeal, and the Superior Court itself. So those, now that takes us back to those who argued that the processes were different. What they were essentially arguing is that if Justice Gertrude Tukono were to be removed as a justice of the Supreme Court, she ought to have gone through this process, and not one that had 2 justices of the Supreme Court, and basically, so that's the controversy is ongoing, for which the Attorney General is seeking an interpretation.
Absolutely.
That's a matter which is still pending. But just like I said, for purposes of education. Now, upon the composition of this particular committee, the committee appointed under Clause 4 of the article shall investigate the complaint and shall make its recommendations to the Chief Justice, who shall forward it to the President. There again, you see a distinction. That when the committee that was looking into the matter of the Chief Justice were done, they forwarded their recommendations straight to the President. They went and met the President, handed over that envelope. In this case, they are saying that the Chief Justice will make the recommendations. No. Let's stay here. Yes. Investigate the complaint and shall make its recommendations to the Chief Justice. So the committee goes to the Chief Justice, who then forwards it to the President. Then it continues. So where the petition is for the removal of the... No, this is for the Chief Justice.
Application.
Yes. So the committee appointed under Clause 6, this is also in respect of the Chief Justice. But essentially, what it also ends in is the fact that whatever recommendations are contained in that, the findings of the committee will be those that the President will be bound by. So the President shall, in each case here refers to, be it in respect of the Justice of the Superior Court or the Chief Justice, act in accordance with the recommendations of the committee. So this is how it generally looks like, should this ever progress to the next stage. But like we said, this is what we are gathering based on the complaint that was made to the CID. We do know what the complaint generally is. And now we are learning that that complaint again has been put in the petition, which has been sent to the presidency, seeking the removal of His Lordship, Justice Yoni Kolendi.
And this person we're talking about is Daniel Mafo Foriata.
Yes,
a native from Chebi. That's
Daniel
the man.
Mafo, yes, Foriata.
We have his picture. That's the man in black next to Richard Jakba.
Precisely.
Right. I see. And it's early days yet on this. It's one that we're looking at and following quite closely, as we did indicate. If the presidency is minded, as we saw in the case of the process as was started, where the former Chief Justice Gertrude Arabai Sabatokono, Felix Kwachofosu issued a press statement telling us about the receipt of the petitions. This time around, we haven't heard or seen any press statement whatsoever acknowledging receipt of this petition that is said to have been sent by this Daniel Mafo Oforiata, but it's one that we're picking up and following quite closely, the signals of this petition at the presidency and what's going to be happening in the coming days. So stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. But there's one other issue as well that we're learning this evening, which we've also been following quite closely, and that's coming up next. It has also to do with another individual on that list that we just showed you. The General Legal Counsel has begun hearing a misconduct complaint against former Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah-Dame over the ambulance trial. We've got the latest on this. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. And this is as well one that has been unfolding by the hour earlier today. And this is Ghana Tonight. Listen, this is, we touched on the complaint yesterday. Then this process has started today. What do we know, Dennis?
So, as part of the mini legs of this, I think this is one of the matters you can describe as looking like an octopus. Absolutely. Because it's almost everywhere. We did indicate that as part of the fallout from this ambulance trial, quite a number of things beyond the complaints to the CID, the petition to the presidency, there was also another complaint that was made to the General Legal Counsel in respect of the former Attorney General, the Leonard Godfred Yeboah-Dame. The complaint was to the effect that the way he went about the matter smacks of some misconduct, professional misconduct, for which this complainant wanted the General Legal Counsel to look at. That was somewhere in May. And we are now learning that the processes have kick-started. Now, mind you, the in-camera principle that applies to Article 146 proceedings also applies in respect of proceedings before the General Legal Counsel when it has to do with professional misconduct. So that also means that we are unable to get the detailed information by way of what exactly has been said, but we've been able to glean some information as to what stage of the process it is now and what essentially has been going on. So what we do know is that the former Attorney General has now given an answer to the complaint. So I usually, when the complaint is made to the General Legal Counsel, upon receipt of that, then they will make the complaint available to the respondent or the affected person to also answer to what the complaint, the issues that are raised by the complainant. So that has been done. So the former Attorney General has now given a response. In other words, he has responded to the complaint.
Okay.
That we understand or we gather that in doing so, he responded in about 6 parts. I mean, how he went about his presentation to respond in 6 parts. The first part, raising preliminary objections as to the way the complaint itself has been carried. Mind you, I had mentioned that it is supposed to be an in-camera proceeding. What it means, by the same principle, is that the complaint itself should not be published. But he observed that on the 22nd day of May, when this complaint was made, it was widely publicized, radio, TV, in newspapers. He thinks that it breaches the principle of the in-camera proceedings. So, to that extent, he raises the objection that it should be dismissed because already it has breached the rules of the procedure.
So it's in the public domain.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then again, he raises an issue about the capacity of the complainant himself, who claims to come under a certain provision of the Constitution. It is the view of the Attorney General, the former Attorney General, that to come under that provision without a personal injury does not clothe him with that capacity to come before the committee. So, in that respect, he wants that the committee dismisses the petition. Beyond the preliminary objections that we understand he raised, he also went into matters about jurisdiction, raising issues of prosecutorial immunity, suggests that as an attorney general, he was not doing whatever he was doing in his personal capacity. He was carrying through his constitutional mandate. To that extent, such persons should be protected in a sense. He urges the committee not to exercise jurisdiction on that particular matter. However, he continues, as we gather, to say that if they are minded to continue, then he would give them the factual background, that is to say, his side of the story. And that's where he began to recount his side of the story, his engagement with Mr. Jakpa, together with his Lordship Justice Yoni Kolendi, and what transpired.
That's right.
Then he went on to, as it were, deny the specific allegations that have been made against him in respect of the claims of professional misconduct and all that. He concludes by saying that the complaint should be dismissed because it has no merit. So essentially, that is what we have been able to gather in respect of the matters that are before the General Legal Counsel. But that is to say, this is a process which is in motion, unlike the others that we are unable to tell exactly where they are now. In respect of this, we do know that the process is in motion.
And it's one that we're following quite closely. What is interesting is that in the case of this petition brought before the General Legal Counsel against Godfrey Yeboah-Dame, the petitioner in this case, or the person who filed this complaint, Daniel Ofosu-Appiah.
Yes.
That's his name, Daniel Ofosu-Appiah. And in the case of Richard Jakpa and also Yoni Kolendi, Justice Yoni Kolendi, is Daniel Mafo Oforiata. The Daniels are onto something.
That's an interesting observation.
Indeed.
I didn't really pay attention to that.
They are onto something, but we'll see how things play out.
Exactly.
But thank you so much, Dennis Pobere-Wadam. This is Ghana Tonight, and as always, I trust that we'll keep an eye on this and be updating you every step of the way so you get to know. But coming up next, this dramatic twists and turns mark the government's push for lower DSTV prices in Ghana, from policy shifts to a fresh apology from multi-choice. We're going to unpack the issues because this is one that is taking very interesting developments over time, and today has been a lot to unpack, and that's what we're going to do right from the moment of the first frequently asked question that was issued by multi-choice. That is what sparked the entire conversation as to exactly what's going on. Then they came with an apology that, look, whatever we put out earlier, in fact, it wasn't to cause any disaffection. We want to indicate that it corroborates exactly what the minister said. But guess what? This pricing controversy between multi-choice and the Minister for Communications, Samuel Nate George, is far from over with what we are seeing right now. Let's start off with exactly what Sam George said, the Communications Minister said, about this entire enhanced offer that multi-choice is giving, as against the demand for a reduction in price, which was the earlier or initial demand from DSTV. He explained it at a press conference 2 days ago, indicating this is an unprecedented offer that DSTV is giving to Ghanaians since the period they've been operating in this country. We'll take a look.
Outcome of the committee's deliberation on the evaluation of DSTV's pricing. The committee deliberated on the pricing of the DSTV service, considered various factors, including the cost factors, the macroeconomic environment of Ghana, subscription volume trends, among others, and discussed and provided input on several options considered by MultiChoice Africa, and arrived at an outcome that will deliver better value to all subscribers in Ghana. MultiChoice Africa has committed to implement an unprecedented increased value offer only in Ghana, and I repeat, only in Ghana, which will result in Ghanaian DSTV subscribers getting more services for less. Depending on the DSTV package or bouquet you use, subscribers will get between 33% to 50% more value. The new arrangement, effective from 1st October 2025, are as follows. For those who are on the Paddy Bouquet subscription, you currently pay 59 Ghana cedis. When you pay 59 Ghana cedis, you get upgraded automatically to Access, which is valued at 99 Ghana cedis, and you get 35 more channels. This represents a 40% savings if you were to pay for the Access yourself. Second bouquet, Access, currently going at 99 Ghana cedi. If you retain your Access bouquet at 99 Ghana cedi, MultiChoice will bump you up to the family bouquet, which is currently priced at 190 Ghana cedis. You get 19 more channels, which means that if you were to stay on Access and get bumped up, for the value you get, you make a savings of 48%. If you're on the family package, which is currently valued at 190 Ghana cedis, DSTV will automatically bump you up to Compact, which ordinarily goes for 380 Ghana cedis. You get 22 more channels and actually get access to live football matches.
Well, so that's the minister in charge of communications, Samuel Nate George there. So that's what he talked about. The details he gave us, increased value offer. That's what was captioned, increased value offer, as against the initial demand for the price reduction. So all of this started from April 15, thereabout, when DSTV announced this increase in the services in terms of the charges that people have to pay for specific bouquets. And then also the fact that if you're going to have to pay, then it would lead to there was some promotion after April, and that 15% increase is what sparked all of this. Some just started demanding that, look, there should be a price reduction because the city is doing well and so on. There are others who were looking at it indicating that, look, April was too early to make demands of a company to reduce prices because they also want to see whether there's going to be a sustenance of this city appreciation over a long period of time and so on. But then again, he was consistent in his demand. The engagements that we saw, and then at some point, DSTV coming out to issue a statement that contradicted. So this contradiction we're seeing today is not the first time that has happened. A couple of months ago, we saw it. But then eventually, some judge indicated there would have to be further engagements. At some point, there was a penalty that was slapped on DSTV, 10,000 CDs on a daily basis. The minority is demanding how much has accrued from that, if indeed DSTV paid. So all of this ended up on Monday, this press conference that you saw there, some judge indicating that there's been some truce. At the time, we thought all of this was over, that there's been some truce, there's been some progress, even though, yes, there was a demand for specific price reduction. He got increased value offer. So he said, look, this is unprecedented. Then DSTV, earlier today, in fact, around midday, we got this statement from MultiChoice. What they said is a frequently asked questions. This is it. This offer is our gesture to give our customers even more value. New, active, and previously disconnected customers who are active during the offer period on DSTV will get to view one package higher. Now, when this came, it came with, and take a look at these two. We've put two frequently asked questions side by side because the one caption before was what was released around midday. Just before the early part of this evening, we got another frequently asked questions from MultiChoice Africa, this time with a very noticeable amendment. So the first one, which is the before, had, we've got you promotion. Take note of the word promotion. Ghana, DSTV, frequently asked questions. The next thing you need to take note of is the period. 1st October 2025 to 31st December 2025. Those were the two things that caught the attention of Ghanaians. Because Sam George, as you heard him, did indicate. In fact, he didn't put a timeline to this. All he indicated was that the committee was going to meet in the next 3 months to review or also look at how things have been. And also, he did not indicate that this was a promotion. So when we saw this promotion, that then defeats what Sam George had put out earlier, that this was unprecedented. It was just for Ghana. It's never happened. And it is as a result of the continuous push for this increase in value that DSTV has done this. But this first frequently asked questions sought to put out the fact that, look, this is nothing to really make a fuss of. It's a promotion going to the Christmas, and we're giving it to you. Then eventually, in fact, 3 hours later, DSTV issued an apology. An apology for what exactly? Let's look at the details of the apology. Because the details of the apology, in fact, sends another picture altogether. This is it. Let's put it on the screen. It says, following the recent joint press conference with the Ministry of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovations, the National Communications Authority, MultiChoice Africa, and MultiChoice Ghana, we wish to clarify the FAQs published on our website, which created, look at the words, an erroneous impression of a contradiction regarding the DSTV value offering, which is effective today, October 1. But this contradiction was not necessarily created by the people who were reading it. However, they say this is erroneous. The burden of this erroneous impression is on DSTV because they issued a statement. They go on to say that they fully support the joint media statement that was issued by the Honorable Minister, Samuel Nate George, and the implementation of same has already commenced. As contained in the said joint media statement regarding the value offering, the committee will reconvene in 3 months to evaluate the impact. There's no restriction. They say now there's no restriction on a subscriber's choice of a bouquet. This offer is available to both existing, returning, and new customers from October 1. Now, this then ends with, we apologize for any inconvenience the first FAQs may have caused. So now they're apologizing for the first frequently asked questions that caused the confusion. Because if they are saying that everything the minister said, they support it. In fact, they corroborate exactly what the minister said. They support it. But the FAQs that they issued contradicts a number of things. Very, very important detail from what the minister said. Now they go and they give a new frequently asked questions. And this is it. This is the latest one. The latest one has, we've got you offer. As I indicated, take note of the difference. There's no promotion now, there's an offer. We've got you promotion. This one also says we've got you offer. Ghana, DSTV, FAQs, 1st October. So the duration has now been limited to October 1. This is one difference that we saw as well in it. The first one, what is this promotion all about? The amended one we saw has, what is this offer all about? So they explain. So the promotion, the word promotion has been replaced with the word offer. And when there's an offer, there has to be an acceptance, as Dennis Poberi will reference. But how long is this offer valid? This promotion will run for a limited period. So they now, in fact, even though they replace the word promotion with offer, the details still has the promotion in there as well. Then this new one, you see, this offer will run from 1st October 2025. It doesn't come with any limited or end date. And this is is what is happening right now. Well, DSTV has stated their position quite clearly, and in fact, now come to corroborate what the minister has said. And then also, you have the divergent views about the approach that was taken as well, and whether this could have been done differently. Let's have a conversation. Professor Enoch Opoku-Enchi is the Dean of the Faculty of Business Communication Arts at the Academic City University. He is a respected management consultant, and that's why we're going to him on this particular issue. Prof, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Fred, it's always a pleasure to be here.
And I wanted to, after listening to all of this, could anything have been done differently to, as it were, prevent this situation and where we are now? Because then the minister held a particular view. This earlier DSTV position then created a certain backlash, and now there seems to be some clarity coming from DSTV as well.
Thank you, Alfred. I think that we need to first recommend the minister for what he's done. Multi-choice has been in our system for a while, and we've not had that kind of a feisty minister who is fighting for the average consumer of Ghanaians. Now, there are a couple of issues that we need to address before we can put things into perspective. The first one is that in the absence of truth, trust deteriorates. And who is telling the truth? Is it multi-choice, DSTV, or it is the minister? Now, we have a lot of issues to address. First, I've looked at the FAQ, the frequently asked questions. And you can't say something is a promotion because promotion have their time span. So if this was a promotion for 3 months, where the party has been upgraded to assets have been upgraded to family, compact, and then premium, you can see that there were some saving components in there. So the party was saving about 40%. The assets was saving 48%. Family upgrade was saving 50%. The compact was saving 33%. And then the compact plus was a saving of 34%. But all these savings were not cash. They were all packages upgrades. So you get some HD channels, then plus additional extra channels that will be added to you. But the minister was fighting for a central word, affordability. Can we afford it? And, you know, we are talking about subscribers. So we have new subscribers, we have existing subscribers, and then we have those who want to come in as returning subscribers. So let's look at the competitive edge. Our cable network is not competitive at all. And the reason why I say that is that the average advanced country have got, let's say, Dish Network, Comcast, Shatter, Cox, and let's say DirecTV. So you have about 5 major TV networks. Plus, they also have fiber optic providers, such as Hulu, which gives live TV shows like football games. They also have the Sling TV, and these are prominent internet-based TV stations that people can also watch. If you look at what DSTV is giving us now, it is at some level that you can have live football, which is the family upgraded to compact, which is 380 now with 22 extra channels, including the live football savings. So you have to get to the family upgraded before you can have the TV to watch. That means that if you are at the party level or the access level, then you will not have the live TV. But a lot of Ghanaians like football. So there are a couple of things that we have to do. One, we need to look at those who don't pay taxes, because we have DSTV Nigeria also in Ghana. And I don't know people are aware. They are paying about 200 Ghana cedis per month to have that access, Nigeria, access to Ghana. So how do we stop that so that we can also get taxes for DSTV? How do we allow competitors? Because this is demand and supply. If we have a lot of competitors coming in to provide television access, live football games that people can watch, then we can say that that will bring the prices down. We also have to look at the local TV stations, what they are offering. Can they also form a coalition and then get a package to have these live football games on. Can we also think about Canal Francais and other TV providers in Africa so that we'll bring them here to compete with DSTV? That is the only way that we can get a price down significantly.
I see. And because you talk about recommendations, I mean, we don't know if this is just the end of this matter, because then DSTV has clarified their position now based on the latest frequently asked questions that they have issued. But what should be the posture of both parties going forward so that there's some finality to this issue?
Yes, the posture should be, the minister should not be that feisty. It seems to me that DSTV want to work with the minister based on the positionality of the minister now. He's taking the position that I'm not moving an inch. This is what I want for my people. And I think that we all have to recommend him, because St. George can pay for any price, but he's fighting for the average Ghanaian because we love football. And the price that DSTV is giving us, comparable to other African countries, ours is too high. It's too high. So the position that DSTV will have to take is that they have to reduce their price first. They have given us packages. We have to subscribe because it's based on subscription. And you can just take yourself out or you can be in. But you know, if you love something, it doesn't matter the price. Now, watching soccer, especially from Europe, has become price inelastic demand for us. It's like no matter the price, people will still want to demand it. So what do? They have to be consistent in their approach. You can't tell us that this is going to be a promotion from October 1st to December. That means promotions have their lifespan. After 3 months, then we go back to the old prices. That is deceptive. Now they are coming to say that they apologize. And after the apology, they are offering us an offer. They are giving us an offer. It is up to the Ghanaian to decide that we'll take this offer or we'll not accept it and we'll go to other alternative TV stations. But apart from Go TV, which is at least closer to DSTV, we don't have any comparable TV stations. So
well, that leads me to my next question, and maybe the brief one, because you talk about now the change in the terminology, because the promotion communicates a certain contract. Now the offer must be accepted. But so should this campaign for reduction in price and increase in value now be led by the consumers, because the minister has done his bit? Should there be a change in the course of who is making this demand or leading this campaign? The recommendation is that the consumers should rather lead this and demand.
Yes, I think all hands should be on deck. This should not be the politician's job. It's the consumer, because DSTV is not forcing anybody to subscribe. We are all subscribers to it. You can unsubscribe yourself and decide not to be part of them. That is why they have existing customers, returning customers, and then new customers. So some have cancelled and they are coming back because it's football season, they want to watch it. So I think that we should not leave this fight to the minister alone. All has to be on deck, because when the price is reduced, we can all enjoy our football games, and then there will be peace in the neighborhoods.
And I do appreciate you. Thank you for joining us, Professor Ocansey there. He is a management consultant. This is Ghana Tonight. We're back shortly after this quick break. Inflation falls to single digit, 9.4% in September. What does this really mean? Why should you be concerned about it? Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle.
From the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital.
From the heart of the Ashanti Kingdom.
Reporting from Sunyani.
From the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds. The moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust, impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News, leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online, and digital. 3 News, first in news.
search for a new queen continues, but this is where it all began. Relive the legacy exclusively on Adesa Plus.
Right, we're live on 3FM 92.7 as Ghana's consumer price inflation has dropped into single digit now for the first time in the last almost 6 years. In fact, the last time we experienced this was sometime in 2019, December 2019, and we've seen this consistent reduction in the rate of inflation since January now to the current 9.4% as of September 2025, down from 11.5% in August. Government Statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu announced this earlier. Take a look.
It signals real progress in stabilizing the economy. Prices in September this year were about 9.4% higher than in September last year. On a month-on-month basis, prices rose by 0.9%. compared with August. In December 2024, inflation was 23.8%. By August 2025, it had dropped to 11.5%. Now in September 2025, we are at 9.4%.
Some good developments there, but Professor Godfrey Bobkin is an economist and also a professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Professor Bobkin, thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First of all, I want to find out from you. We've seen this inflation rate, single digit, 9.4%. Over the last at least 7 months, we've seen a consistent reduction in the price. That's the rate of inflation. But then, what does this really mean? There certainly is a story behind the statistics we've seen, how this impacts on the economy, as we've seen now. Prof.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's good news. Inflation has consistently been on the decline as a reflection of government policies. If you look at where inflation was December 2024, 23.8%, and now we are talking about inflation of 9.4%. I think if you look at within this period, the rate of deceleration or the rate of decline, I think is quite of good, and I think it's something that will be a relief to consumers. Of course, we are saying that from September last year to September this year, prices on the average have gone up by 9.4%. Per world average, we can say that, yes, it's not like it's outstanding, or even if we compare this to our regional peers or our structural peers, some of them are doing far better than us. But given where we have come from, this is positive. This is good news. Again, if you also look at the disaggregation of the inflation numbers, if you look at the food inflation, that is where a lot of Ghanaians will be concerned, especially those at the lower end of the income quintile. They will be more concerned because food inflation is still double digits at 11%, even though the average inflation is 9.4%. So food inflation is still high, double digits. Of course, it has come down. We appreciate that, but it's still double digit. So we need to work on the food inflation and make sure that that also comes down significantly, because that is what takes between 42 to 44% of household expenditure in Ghana. Okay, and given that income levels are very low, when food inflation is that high, then it's problematic. But I think that we need to look at that side and make sure that once we're able to bring down food inflation, then it will drag the overall inflation downwards considerably, because non-food inflation is in the single-digit zone, whilst food inflation is a double-digit. The other thing to also take note is that on month-on-month basis, you will see that inflation is positive at 0.9%. Okay, it's not outstanding anyway, but it's still positive. It means that prices on the average are going up, okay, but not so significantly, so to speak, compared that to maybe last year. That's good. The other thing that I want to draw the attention of our listeners to, and also government, is to look at the inflation on locally produced items compared to imported inflation. You will see that the advantage is on the side of those who import rather than those who produce locally or produce from here. So that is also another thing that government will have to look at, so that we tilt the advantage towards producing locally compared to importing, of course, because of the aggressive strengthening of the currency, even though we've seen some kind of correction in terms of the exchange rates. Imported inflation is lower, and if you compare that to locally produced inflation, then one is the baseline interpretation is that one is better off actually importing rather than producing here. I believe that government will be looking at the data, so that going forward we begin to put in place measures that will make production more competitive and cheaper compared to actually importing and then paying all the duties. What is also important is that because we are surrounded by neighbors with far lower VAT rates, because the standard VAT rate in Nigeria is 7.5%. Our standard VAT rates, but effectively, our VAT rate is around 22% approximately, or 21.9%. Now, if you look at those regional dynamics and all of that, it may be cheaper actually importing, and if it's possible to smuggle those goods in through unapproved routes, which we think is happening in this country, also given the aggressive strengthening of the currency and many other interventions in the market, a VAT rate that is very high. All of this could encourage cross-border pirating or trade that would not be impacting our revenue envelope. So there are still a lot of things that we need to do, and bear in mind that we have been there before. In fact, inflation as of December 2019 was actually 7.9%. Okay, so of course, this is clearly in sight. Given the progress that we have made in the rate of distribution, it will not be long and will hit probably 8%, and then below that, if we're able to sustain this. Of course, we also need to bear in mind that external factors also play a role, but I do not see that in the near term and all of that, and therefore we may be able to settle within the single-digit zone for
quite some time there. But that's where, in fact, it's good that you referenced the fact that sometime in 2019 we saw this 7.9%, which we were seeing this deceleration now to 9.4%. The concern, which you underscore quite important there, is food inflation. Food inflation is still in the double digits, and that's what a lot of people who are watching us will be very focused on, because of how much we all spend on food. So we must see that decline in the food inflation rate as well going forward. I want to say thank you, Professor Godfrey Bopkin. He's a professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. We're back again tomorrow for another conversation. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior height.